Hello, this is Jim. Thanks for visiting my channel, Off-Grid Living with the Bennetts. More and more people are making the switch to off-grid living, and it's easy to see why. The idea of being self-sufficient, relying on your own resources, and being disconnected from the grid is incredibly appealing. But I've always wondered, is off-grid living really ready for emergencies? When you think about it, off-grid living can be a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to emergencies. On the other hand, you've already somewhat prepared because you're used to relying on yourself. But on the other hand, you're also more isolated and may not have access to the resources you need. For example, off-grid homes often rely on renewable energy, like solar or wind power. But what happens when these resources fail or are damaged? Do you have a backup plan in place? And what about access to medical care and emergency services? Living off-grid can make it difficult to get the help you need in a timely manner. Furthermore, if off-grid living often requires a high degree of self-sufficiency, which can be a challenge even in the best of times. Growing your own food, collecting your own water, and managing your own waste can be overwhelming, especially if you're new to off-grid living, like I am. And what happens when disaster strikes and you're left without the resources you need? It's one thing to be self-sufficient when everything is going smooth, but it's a whole different story when you're faced with emergencies. Another limitation to off-grid living is its reliance on technology. While renewable energy resources are becoming more reliable, they're not infallible. What happens when your solar panels or wind turbine fails, or your battery backup runs out of power? And what about the tools and equipment you use to collecting and purifying water or to preserve food? If they break down or become damaged, you could be left without the essentials. In an emergency situation, even minutes count, and being off-grid can make it difficult to get the help you need quickly, whether it's a medical emergency, a natural disaster, or some other kind of crisis. Being able to respond quickly and efficiently is crucial. But when you're living off-grid, you may not have the access to the same level of resources and support that you would have had in an urban environment. Off-grid living requires a lot of planning and preparation, and that's essentially true when it comes to emergency situations. One of the most important things for you to do is to identify your weaknesses and vulnerabilities and to develop a plan to address them. For example, if you're relying on renewable energy, you may want to invest in a backup generator or some other kind of backup power source. If you're collecting your own water, you may want to develop a plan with purifying and storing water in case of emergency. And one key aspect of off-grid living is renewable energy. And there's a lot of different options to choose from. Solar power is a popular choice, but it's not always reliable. Wind power is another option, but you can find it to be very noisy at times. And then there's hydropower, which can be incredibly effective, but may require a lot of infrastructure. If you're out in the middle of the bush, you don't have access to the infrastructure. Whatever option you choose, it's important to have a backup plan, a plan in case a primary source of power fails. Water collection and purification is another crucial aspect of off-grid living. Whether you're collecting rainwater or hauling water from a nearby source, you need to make sure it is safe to drink. And that's not always easy. Investing in a good water purification system can be a lifesaver, especially in an emergency situation. And then there's food. There's food storage, which is crucial in an emergency. Whether you're growing your own food or storing non-perishable items, you need to make sure you have a reliable source of nutrition. Community support is also essential in an emergency situation. When you're living off grid, you can't always rely on the government or other outside agencies to come to your rescue. That's why it is important to develop a relationship with your neighbors and others like-minded individuals like yourself. Whether it's through a formal network or just a loose association for friends, having a community of people who can help and support you in an emergency can make a big difference. In the end, off-grid living can be a powerful tool for preparing for emergencies, but it's not a guarantee. It's up to each individual to identify their weaknesses and their vulnerabilities and develop a plan to address them. Whether you're living off-grid full-time or just want to be more prepared for an emergency, the key is to be flexible, adaptable, and willing to learn and improve. Thanks for watching, and if you have any experience in off-grid living or emergency situations, please share your stories in the comments below. Thank you for visiting my channel. Subscribe to my channel, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Thank you.